Hello?
Hello, Jughead. This is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
The friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality.
Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wow, that's the first time I've seen that new countdown opening. Absolutely love that. I love the different radio programs and stuff. And what's funny is JD and I were just talking about radio programs and favorites and stuff. And I was joking about how I could imitate from the old Cisco Kids show. I could imitate both Cisco and Pancho, which is kind of a weird combination. But yeah, it brought up that my dad who passed away about 4 years ago, he grew up in Chicago. He was born and raised in Chicago. And Chicago, a local radio station in Chicago, are the ones that created the Lone Ranger and then later on the Green Hornet. And I don't know how many people know this, but the two characters are connected. Besides being created by the same characters, they're related. The Green Hornet is the nephew or great nephew, I don't remember which one it is, of the Lone Ranger. His Lone Ranger's brother had a kid, and then he had, and so his, the Green Hornet is, Britt Reed is the nephew of, I think it's John Reed is the original Lone Ranger's name. But my dad grew up listening to those and loving them. And I picked up a lot of that from him. And I listened to old radio programs. It's one of the reasons I have satellite radio in my truck is to listen to satellite radio, to old programs. But I got a neat thing I was able to do as a writer. I had an opportunity to write a short story of the Green Hornet in a prose collection of short stories from Moonstone. And it was pretty open. I could do what I wanted. And I always had this idea of what I would do with the Green Hornet was I would give him amnesia so that, somebody has to explain who he is and stuff. And I thought how interesting it would be if a criminal is the one that finds him and has to explain it from the point of view of the criminals for the Green Hornet, because the Green Hornet, unlike, say, Batman or Superman, the Green Hornet is considered a criminal and another gang boss. So here he would be being filled with all this information about who he is, but from the point of view of his cover, not from, who he really is. And the character I had telling him about this stuff is this guy that fishes him out of the river or out of the lake. And I named him after my dad. I named him Eugene Pops. We always called my dad Pops, but his name was Eugene. And I couldn't use my own last name. So I used my uncle's name, Robert. So it was Eugene Pops Roberts. And because they grew up together in Chicago. I thought it was a neat little thing to do. And then a couple years later, about a year or so later, I got asked to do another one. They said, yeah, we're going to do another book. Do you want to do another one? I said, absolutely. I said, there was a character I used in the first one I'd love to bring back. Can I do that? And the guy said, these books are canon. That character is now a part of the Green Hornet lexicon or canon. So yeah, you can bring him back. And I went, yes, my dad is officially part of the Green Hornet universe. And that made me very happy. So, all right, guys, it's Happy Halloween Day, and we're going to talk about Agatha all along. We're going to talk about the Penguin, and I got some news for you, so stick around. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. Happy Halloween to everybody. Hey Triple B, good to see you. JD is on the board, and we've got lots of news to cover, so we're going to dive right into that. But first, of course, I've been wearing this for a little while now, so I am very happy. Caught that insane fifth inning, I think it was last night, where the Yankees I think they just quit. I think they just gave the game away at that point. You drop a ball in the outfield, it happens. You short hop a throw to third, okay, but not normally in the same inning. You forget to cover first base on a grounder. Now it's getting a little silly, and that's pretty much how that whole inning went. And just very happy that the Dodgers are world champions. The second time since 2020. And before that, it was 1988. So it's been a long, dry spell there for a while. So 81, 88. Yeah. And then we go back to like way past. But yeah, so I won't talk too much about sports. I could absolutely go on an entire hour about sports and stuff, but we're not here for that. We're here to talk comics and Halloween. Just in case you are looking for things to watch on this Halloween night, I am a big fan of the old Universal monster movies. I highly recommend them. My favorites being Frankenstein and Creature of the Black Lagoon, with Dracula coming in third. I mean, they're pretty close. Sometimes they're interchangeable, but that's pretty much my go-to. I'm also a big fan of the Hammer horror films. Night of the Living Dead is fantastic. Something more modern and in the MCU, Werewolf by Night, that special is still just one of the best things Marvel has done. Agatha now goes up there, though. It's a pretty good show. But yeah, so if you're looking for a Halloween treat, I'd recommend those things. More modern, maybe the first Halloween movie, I think, is a really good one. And Young Frankenstein. Terry Garr just passed, and it made me think about Young Frankenstein. And I've got one of those brains that just kind of starts putting things together and whatnot. And I started thinking, is there anybody left from that movie that's still alive? Mel Brooks is. I know Mel Brooks is. But he was never actually in the movie. It's one of the few movies he never makes a cameo. His voice does. When they're throwing darts and one of them goes wide and suddenly you hear the sound of a cat, that's Mel Brooks' cat. Or not Mel Brooks' cat, that's Mel Brooks doing the sound of the cat. So Mel Brooks isn't actually in the movie. He is the director of it, but there is one actor still around from that movie now that Terry Garr has passed. One actor, and he's the guy that people kind of forget was in the movie because it was so bizarre for him to show up. It was just a small role, and his best line in it got ad-lib. He ad-libbed it his best line, and that's Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman plays the hermit who befriends the monster, who feeds him, who gives him drink, tries to give him a cigar, ends up lighting the monster's thumb on fire. But the best line is when the monster has stormed off out of fear of fire, and Hackman follows him to the door. And Hackman, of course, his character is blind, and he yells out, "Wait! don't go. I was going to make espresso. If you do the behind the scenes stuff on this movie, that was not scripted. That was not planned. It wasn't something he had pitched. He just threw that out there at the moment and floored everybody. And they do a quick cut of it because they had to, because everybody started busting up laughing. So, all right, let's get to the news. Let's see. I, of course, put it the wrong end. All right, we're going to start with DC. We're going to roll DC, then we'll do Marvel, then we'll do some other stuff. Starting with Nicholas Hoult. Nicholas Hoult, of course, has been cast as Lex Luthor in the upcoming Superman movie, and he was on the red carpet for the AFI Fest and mentioned the upcoming film. Excuse me. And he said of it, he says, I'm a fan of Superman and Lex Luthor as a character, so hopefully we've done something special with it that people enjoy. Now, that's pretty safe bet, but he also went on to praise James Gunn, the director of the film and currently co-head of DC Studios. He said, I just loved working with James. I think he's an incredible director and has such a great sense of the world, the story, the characters. I just put my trust in him. Now, it's interesting for him to say that because you realize that Gunn is one of those directors that people just like to continue working with. You know, he tends to recast people when he gets along with them. And I think that's cool. But you kind of getting the idea now why. And because Gunn's a good guy to work with. So that's, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. On the other hand, speaking of another director, and I love this story. Quentin Tarantino is sort of praising Todd Phillips and his Joker Folie movie. Folie à deux? Folie? Folie? I don't know. It's something French. It means a shared psychosis. Now, the film bombed. I mean, it's already going to digital, and it's only been out like 3 weeks or something like that. But what Tarantino said is, I really, really liked it. Really, a lot. Like, tremendously. And went to see it expecting to be impressed by filmmaking, but I thought it was going to be an arm's length intellectual exercise that ultimately I wouldn't think worked like a movie, but that I would appreciate it for what it was. Now, Tarantino went on to describe himself. He says, I'm just nihilistic enough to enjoy a movie that doesn't quite work as a movie. That's like a big giant mess to some degree. Remember, he's praising the movie as a big giant mess that doesn't quite work as a movie. He also said that it works on a different level, that Phillips himself was actually the Joker. So it wasn't Joaquin Phoenix who was the Joker, it's Todd Phillips. And what he says is, the Joker directed the movie, the entire concept, even him spending the studio money. He's spending it like the Joker would spend it, all right? And then his big surprise gift, the Jack in the Box, when he offers you his hand for a handshake and you get a buzzer with 10,000 volts shooting you. It's the comic book geeks, he's saying F you to all of them. He's saying F you to the movie audience. He's saying F you to Hollywood. He's saying F you to anybody who owns any stock in DC and Warner Brothers. And Todd Phillips is the Joker. Un film de Joker, all right, is what it is. He is the Joker. He was praising the movie. I think he was praising the fact that Todd Phillips basically took the studio's money and made a giant pile of dung. That's kind of how that whole thing comes across. And I think it's hilarious. But yeah, it's funny that he's that excited about it. All right. Let's move on over to Lanterns, Green Lantern TV show. Boardwalk Empire alum Kelly MacDonald is returning to HBO as a series regular opposite Kyle Chandler and Aaron Pierre in Lanterns. Now, this, of course, is based on the Green Lantern DC comics, and the series will follow a new recruit, John Stewart, played by Pierre, and Lantern legend Hal Jordan, played by Chandler, two intergalactic cops drawn into a dark Earth-based mystery as they investigate a murder in the American heartland. Now, I know some people are out there going, well, why are we doing it on Earth? What is going on? But just take a moment and remember that the shows that we're currently loving are stuff like a Z-level character like Agatha Harkness and a lower level Batman villain, or kind of a laughed at Batman villain in a TV series that doesn't have Batman in it at all, and we're loving it. So maybe thinking outside the box and doing something different is exactly the answer to all of the negativity that the superhero shows have been having lately. Anyway, McDonald will play Sheriff Carey, a no-nonsense woman deeply devoted to her family and close-knit town. Her resilience, shaped by a complex past that's hardened her resolve, anchors her when the community's secrets begin to surface, and the character is believed to be a potential love interest for Hal Jordan. So, hey, Kenneth, good to see you. Happy Halloween. All right, shifting over to Marvel, like driving a big trash truck. Disney, are you saying she's the sheriff? JD is on fire tonight. He's bringing up old Suzanne Summers TV shows. All right. Well, Disney dropped a new trailer for a bunch of Marvel TV content. Of course, they did this because Agatha was ending. So they're like, no, wait, don't go. We're making other shows. One of them is Deadpool and Wolverine. They teased that coming out on November 12th. So if you're waiting for Deadpool and Wolverine, you got less than 2 weeks left. Or if you're like me, you just buy the Blu-ray. What If? Third season will return on December 22nd. So we got that coming. And then, of course, Daredevil Born Again is going to be released on March 4th. Now, they don't mention, because this is focused on Disney+, but we'll get Captain America Brave New World in February. So then March we'll get Daredevil. Then later in the following year, there's going to be Wonder Man, which I think it's a December 2025 release. Marvel Zombies, which is an animated feature for next Halloween that kind of is following the zombies that we meet in the What If series, but it's going to focus on them. We're also getting the animated Eyes of Wakanda, which following Wakandan warriors who have traveled around the world throughout history to find dangerous vibranium artifacts. And of course, that is supposed to have a older version or a previous version of Iron Fist in it. That's expected on August 6th. And then we'll also be getting Ironheart next summer, which we've been waiting for quite some time. That'll be in June. And that'll pick up from the character we met in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which was originally titled Spider-Man Freshman Year, that's another animated series that will kick off in January of 2025. So we're going to get a lot of stuff. Just a lot of it's going to be animated. So we're going to get Deadpool and Wolverine in November, What If in December, Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man in January, Captain America Brave New World in February, Daredevil in March, and then April, May, nothing. June, we'll get Ironheart. August, we'll get Eyes of Wakanda, Marvel Zombies in October, and then Wonder Man in December. So that's a pretty good year. So they're filling it up nicely. All right, sticking with Marvel, sort of. Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. is against the use of generative artificial intelligence to recreate his likeness, issuing a warning to potential future executives who may want to bring back Tony Stark or any of his other characters back from the dead. Like Dr. Dolittle or Sherlock Holmes or, I don't know. Tony Stark is probably who we're talking about. He was asked about his thoughts on deepfakes and AI recreations, and he said, there's two tracks. How do I feel about everything that's going on? I feel about it minimally because I have an actual emotional life that's occurring that doesn't have a lot of room for that. To go back to the MCU, I'm not worried about them hijacking my character's soul because there are like 3 or 4 guys and gals who make all the decisions there anyway, and they would never do that to me, with or without me. When he was pushed though about future executives, the ones that don't know him purposely or currently, he said, "Well, you're right. I would like to hear state that I intend to sue all future executives just on spec." When reminded that, well, he would be, dead at that point because of the scenario, he says, "Yes, but my law firm will still be very active." So he basically put a warning out there that when he dies, if anybody decides to use his likeness to keep going, they will get sued. I like that. All right, let's switch over to Harry Potter. Will Eddie Redmayne return as the role of Newt Scamander? The character he plays in the Fantastic Beasts film series. Well, the actor is indicating no, he probably won't. When asked if audience had seen the last of Newt, Redmayne said, "I think they probably have." That was a very frank answer, but yeah, and that's as far as I know. I mean, you'd have to speak to the people at Warner Brothers and J.K. Rowling, but as far as I know, that's it. But he did tease something. He says, "I think he may come back in a glimpse in the Universal World in Florida that they're opening up, in which you may catch a glimpse of what he was up to in Paris." So likely no more Fantastic Beasts series, which still blows my mind that was a 3-movie series. Because if you are a fan of the books, you know that Fantastic Beasts was about that thick. It was this tiny little kids book they put together that I couldn't see getting 1 movie out of, let alone 3. So, all right, let's move on to my favorite story. Today it is, there's this trend going on where they're taking these popular book series and Amazon Prime is doing it, and they did it with Jack Reacher. They're doing it with Alex Cross. And of course, they did it with Jack Ryan, where we had a bunch of Jack Ryan movies, and he was played by Alec Baldwin, and then Harrison Ford, and then Ben Affleck, and then Chris Pine. So they decided, okay, we've had enough movies. Let's try television. And they get John Krasinski to play Jack Ryan. And where at first I'm like, wait, the dude from The Office? But after watching the first season, I was hooked. I loved it. And there's 3 seasons after that. So you get 4 seasons of him as Jack Ryan, and you watch him grow. And what's interesting is just his physicality changes too. Even, he goes from clean shaven to kind of a gruff beard. And as he gets more mature and grows the character, his look becomes a little more grizzled and stuff too. But anyway, they did 4 seasons. That was going to be the end of it. But not so much. What they've decided now is, okay, we've done the TV shows, let's go back to the movies. So Amazon MGM Studios is starting production or pre-production on a Jack Ryan movie where Krasinski will return, Wendell Pierce will also return, and they are talking to Michael Kelly. Michael Kelly, if that name doesn't sound familiar right away, he was playing on The Penguin as, I cannot remember the character's name, but he's the one that got killed Sophia killed at the table. So yeah, you get great actors and stuff. And Wendell Pierce is currently playing Perry White in the Superman movie. Well, Kelly's in negotiations. The writer is going to be Aaron Rabin, who scripted the film, or will be scripting this film. He wrote season 4, or worked on season 4, and Andrew Bernstein, who directed in season 2, will helm the project. Now, they haven't said whether this is going to be all new material, like the 4 seasons have been, and they'll just continue from that, or if they'll try to adapt any of the original Tom Clancy novels that the character is from. I like them doing new stuff, but I could see them starting to pull from some of the books too. That would make a lot of sense. And it doesn't sound like this is just going to be a one-time movie. I think what they want to do is take the series characters and stuff and move them into doing films. No idea if these will get theatrical releases or if they'll just be Amazon Prime movies. But either way, I'm all for more John Krasinski as Jack Ryan. All right, guys, that is the news. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Penguin, and then we're going to talk about the season finale of Agatha All Along. Be right back.
We know you probably get a lot of emails, but could you please make sure to sign up for our mailing list? We don't send a lot of emails, and we try not to bother you. We just want to give you the best information about all the cool stuff that's going on around here. Sign up on our website, theexplive.com.
Boring old Tuesday.
Kick it! Anyway, let's get to it.
Henri Copen scours collections and comic shops to bring you the biggest deals on beautiful comics.
I'm very eager to sell these books.
Plus, he smashes those other boring sales shows. Henri's got fire, excitement, personality, key books, FOMO books.
Pixie! FOMO books for you.
A cute dog. Weird accents.
69, bro!
A wheel of skid bark?
We do wheel spins at the end of every show.
You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll score huge bargains.
That is Haktua magic right there, all right?
Kicking it with Henri. Tuesday nights, part of the experience.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. More news just broke. Now, you guys know that James Gunn has said there's no casting unless we have a script. Once we get a script, then we'll start casting things. And the only things that are in pre-production right now and have casting, there was two of them. I only remember one at the moment. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. That was in pre-production. So, and Lanterns was the other thing. So, we got Lanterns casting earlier. We have more Supergirl casting. Now, if you guys don't know, the Woman of Tomorrow movie is based off of Tom King's 2022 book series of the same name. Had Bilquis Evely as the artist. Well, Ana Nogueira is adapted the comic book for the big screen, and they've cast Millie Alcock to play Supergirl. And in the story, Supergirl gets recruited by a young girl named Ruth Mary Knoll to go up against this guy, the bad guy, Krem of the Yellow Hill, who killed her fathers. This is an alien story that takes place in space. Well, we previously learned that Krem of the Yellow Hill will be played by Rust and Bone actor Matthias Schoenaerts. And Millie Alcock, of course, comes from House of the Dragons. Well, they have just cast Ruth Marie Knoll, and she is going to be played by Eve Ridley from The Three Body Problem. Now, Noel, the character, is the one who draws Supergirl into the conflict. She's a noble and honorable warrior who travels across the galaxy with Supergirl to hunt Krem for killing her father in cold blood. So, sounds like those are the three main characters of the story, and they've got them cast. So that's probably the biggest thing you want to do. So looks like things are going to start moving forward with Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I believe that's going to start shooting in early 2025. Now, there's been talk that Millie Alcock will appear as Supergirl prior to the movie. So whether she pops up in Superman or in another project, don't know yet. But we shall find out. All right, let's talk. Before we get into the Agatha stuff, I should probably spend a little time talking about the Penguin. Now, I'm fascinated by the online response to the Penguin. And what I'm fascinated about is that people seem to absolutely love this series. There hasn't been a drop-off. The numbers keep climbing. Every time we turn around, they've gained another 100,000 viewers for the Sunday night debut. And that's awesome. And I'm loving the series. And by far, it's probably my favorite thing on the air right now. Really look forward to it. I thought this last episode was a little slow and a little subdued. But there were moments that are really up there, the ending where Sophia discovers the apartment they're staying in and finds Oz's mom and stuff. And we end there on the cliffhanger. It's like, oh boy, that's going to be bad. Or there's this great scene. It's just a very mellow scene, but it's this great scene of Maroni cooking one of his wife's dishes and Sophia's going to eat too. And it's just so much symbolism going on there. He's popped open one of the most expensive bottles of wine, and it just shows it's this great dichotomy of the differences between Falcone and Maroni. Falcone would never have drank that. Owning it was what's important. Maroni is like, what's the point of owning it if you're not going to drink it? Falcone wanted to control everything. His family was to pass the power on, stuff like that. Maroni cared about his family. He knew how his son liked this version of the dish, Taj, how Nadia would have made it. He knows that stuff. Nadia taught him how to cook. There was nothing Carmine would have learned from his wife, not on purpose. So it just shows that, but it just shows how important family is to Maroni as part of who he is, where Carmine looked at family as another part of his business. And I thought that was fascinating, that scene. There was a quick moment, though, when Clancy Brown was cooking in it, and I'm thinking, is he making a Krabby Patty? But no. That scene was just so good. And that's the thing about this show, is they have the quiet moments that allow the characters to really come to life. And that's what that scene does. There's also a lot of stuff with Oz. We get the moment with him with the suspenders and the cigar, and you see him becoming more and more the comic book Penguin. And I think that's the key here. I put a video up about this the other day, but online you see all these people going, oh, is Dr. Julian Rush going to become Scarecrow? And is Victor Aguila going to become Victor Zaz? And, is this guy going to be that? And there's all of this looking for Easter eggs. And I think it's partly because that's what we get in the Marvel Universe. They set up all this stuff. It's all interconnected. And I don't think that's Matt Reeves. I don't think Matt Reeves is trying to do all these little Easter eggs and stuff. I think he's trying to tell a unique story in a specific genre. And he's not just going to throw a character in just to throw it in. And again, I could be wrong, but this is the feeling I've got. And it's come to me since the Harvey Dent thing, or the lack of Harvey Dent. We have a DA in the first movie. They could have made it Harvey Dent. They could have talked about an assistant DA. There's no Harvey Dent. They don't bother to set up Harvey Dent. They don't give that Easter egg and then later on we'll pay it off. There are enough in there that you feel the ones that are there are important. Like the reporter that gets killed by Carmine is named Elliot. So he's going to be Tommy Elliott's father or grandfather. So that's the important Easter eggs. But other things like throwing in different characters and stuff that who might become, I don't think that's this show. I don't think that's what Matt Reeves does. Just like I don't think anybody in the Penguin is somebody that they're not upfront saying they are. You know, Jonathan Crane is the Scarecrow. I don't think Julian Rush is using a fake name. Now, I did see a neat thing online. Somebody said that maybe Dr. Rush doesn't exist. Maybe he's a figment of Sophia's imagination. I could kind of get behind that one, and I could see it being part of her psychoses. But I don't think he's going to suddenly say, oh, well, that's not my real name. This is my real name. You know, he didn't do that. And even when he had the character, the other cellmate, he just said, yeah, it's supposed to be the Joker. You know, we didn't get to the scene where you would have seen him better, but yeah, he's supposed to be the Joker. So I don't think we're going to get any kind of big flip like that. I think what we're getting is the Batman is the origin story of sorts of the Batman, not how he ended up putting on the costume, but how he went from being this urban legend to being the hero of the city. Where the Penguin we see in the Batman isn't the Penguin yet. At that point, he's the Penguin. The name the Penguin is an insult. You know, he hasn't embraced it yet. He hasn't moved his way up yet. That's what this is. This is the origin of the Penguin. You know, this is Oz becoming the Penguin, embracing the name and becoming the gangster. And will it take his mother being murdered? Will it take Victor being killed? And Eve betraying him and stuff like that? Those are all likely. You know, those are things that we're seeing set up. That by the time we're done, we're going to have the comic book equivalent, or the Matt Reeves universe equivalent of the comic book Penguin. You know, I don't think he'll be as over the top walking around in tuxedos and stuff, but we've seen pictures of him wearing a top hat and a big jacket with a kind of a feathery or fur lining. So I think we're going to get pretty close. And by the time Batman 2 comes out, I think we're going to have the Penguin from the comics to go with having the Batman. And, you know, the Catwoman, I don't think she's Catwoman yet. I think she's becoming Catwoman. And that's what it is. He's growing this universe. And in doing so, he doesn't want to just throw in every other name person. Like, oh, we're going to have this guy and that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy. We've got the Riddler. We've got Catwoman. We've got Penguin, all of them becoming who they are. And we've got Batman. And we've got the Joker. That's all you need at this point. You don't need to have 97 other villains. You know, they throw Magpie in there and then they kill her. Okay, great. Nobody really cared about Magpie, but she was a villain. So yeah, that's what I think they're doing. But all right, let's go ahead and move on. Before we do, there's something I want to talk to you guys about or announce. I am working on a new project. is called Obsidian Moon. And it is a, how do I put this? You know, the MCU is a big cohesive universe with all these different titles and stuff. You know, you got Spider-Man and Hulk and stuff, and they all kind of connect together. Or DC's the same thing. Outside of superheroes, you don't usually get that. Comic book superheroes are probably the only way that you get that. The closest thing to that would be maybe Buffy universe, because there was Buffy and then there was Angel, so you had that spinoff. Or Supernatural, I think they had a spinoff show. Never really does take off that way. Well, I have been doing comics now since 1994, and I realized at some point that I have this tendency to do what they call urban fantasy or supernatural based characters. And I also realized that they all kind of exist in the same universe, and I could cross them over. So what I'm going to do, at least right now, the tentative plan is to start doing novels, probably crowdsourcing them and self-publishing novels that will include the Lucius Fogg stuff that I did, the novels I've already written. Those will be kind of a prelude. So there'll be new Lucius Fogg stuff. Unravel, which was a book I originally was going to do over at Shadowline as a comic. I'm making that, which I've also written as a TV pilot. Forever Shadows, another TV pilot I worked on. Bloodlust, which was one of the first comics I ever wrote. All of that stuff is going to come together in a series of novels. So we'll kind of be jumping around the universe, but eventually building towards an event called Obsidian Moon. And it's going to be a huge undertaking. It's going to take time, but I want to start it in January of the new year. And one of the first things I need to do is build a mailing list and to get people so that I can tell you what's going on. I may also start using the Sunday night slot that I used to do Pop Go the Writers, since I haven't really come up with what I'm doing with that yet. I may start using that as a night to talk to the fans about what's going on with Obsidian Moon. So if you would like to sign up, I'm not going to flood the thing with messages. I will just send out an occasional email telling you what's going on. JD just put it in the chat. You just got to put in your email address, even your third email address. People have, well, this is my main email. This is my backup one, and this is the one I use for spam. Jay's already on there. I appreciate that. So sign up and find out what's going on with Obsidian Moon. And I will give more of that as it comes along. All right, let's talk Agatha All Along. It's been an interesting trip on this series. The original story, the original episode that was kind of a Mare of Easttown true detective thing really clicked with me, and I liked it a lot. And it felt like it was a true successor to WandaVision, because WandaVision had that whole television thing and you're trying to figure out, well, why are we living in a sitcom? And why is it, well, now we're suddenly in the Dick Van Dyke Show. Oh, no, now it's the Brady Bunch. How is it? Why is this happening? You had that in the first episode, and then we kind of broke out of it where, you're trying to figure it out in WandaVision. Well, as we're going through it here, we end up in the Witch's Road with all, by the way, spoilers if you haven't seen it. I'm going to absolutely spoil. So if JD can throw the spoiler thing up there, that would be, thank you, JD. Always on the spot. The last two episodes answer so many questions. And I think we can see what Marvel's problem has been and what they're doing to fix it with the last two episodes. I think prior to kind of figuring out and slowing things down and doing, Marvel would have ended the series at the end of episode 8. Where it's like, well, we resolved it. They're off the Witch's Road. Everybody's good. We're good to go. But not everything was answered. There's more questions than answers. the 9th episode was almost an epilogue to the story, but it was an epilogue that pieced all the pieces together. And it's kind of weird. I didn't expect it because episode 7 sewed together so many things just perfectly that I went into the finale thinking there aren't a lot of mysteries left to solve. You know, they just got to do their last trial, get their gift, and then be done with it. And little did I know, they had so much more planned. And that's what was awesome about this show. The question I stated before this, and this was before watching it, will Agatha all along stick the landing? Absolutely. But they stuck it in a way I didn't expect. Like I said, if they would have ended with episode 8, I wouldn't have been disappointed, but I would have been like, well, you know, it would have been nice to know this, that, and the other thing, and, you know, maybe there'll be a spinoff. I don't know. What episode 9 does, not only does it answer questions we didn't know we had, but it made the series so much more a true successor to WandaVision than we originally were seeing. I mean, just amazingly so. It went from, oh yeah, they used that conceit in the beginning, but now we're using some of the characters, but it's its own little thing, to bringing it back around to being like, oh yeah, this is an actual sequel. This is WandaVision season 2 in a lot of ways. And that's because we find out things we didn't know. You'll notice that the Witch's Road, and through all of it, I realized the Witch's Road looked like a film set. It didn't look real. Everything on it looked like a film set. We even have a moment in the 8th episode where Rio just walks over, takes her knife and cuts a hole in the set and walks out. And then it kind of reseals. And it's like, okay, well, that's kind of what Clea does in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. So that's kind of weird. But yeah, but it looked like a freaking backdrop. And some of the scenes have been, you know, even Lisa was like going, why does this look so cheap? I'm like, I think it's supposed to. Well, it is. Because in a way, the Witch's Road is another hex. It's a hex created by Billy. Because we find out the Witch's Road doesn't exist. It never existed. Agatha had never been on the Witch's Road. Why she was an expert of it is because she made it up. We get to see a flashback to her giving birth to her son, who it appears should have died at childbirth, but she was given more time by Rio, by death. And together, her and her son Nicholas, and the reason he's Nicholas Scratch is because Agatha says that she created him without magic. She created him from scratch, so he became Nicholas Scratch. They create this song called The Windy Road, and they're going around singing it, and they're using it to find a way to entice witches from an area, because as they state in the 2nd episode, that anywhere in a 3-mile radius of where you are, there should be enough witches to make a coven. And if that's the case, if she could use this little boy singing the song to entice these witches to come out, she then could get them to attack her and steal their powers. And that's what they did for a long time. And then after Nicholas does die, she continues to do it because she finds out that the song that they created has kind of taken on a life of its own and is moving around like they do. That's how a lot of songs and stories and stuff used to travel. Bards would hear a song and then claim it as their own and make little tweaks and stuff. So by the time, Wanda gets it back, all these witches are now looking for the Witch's Road, something she made up with her son. And that little thing we saw in the third episode where it doesn't work and she picks a fight with the witches so that they'll attack her is exactly what she's been doing for centuries. And all of that was what she was going to do again with Lilia and Alice and Jennifer. But Billy uses his reality-altering magic, or abilities, to make the Witch's Road real. Or at least, what he would think it would look like, his thoughts of it. And that's the big reveal we get in 9, is that all of the stuff that made up the Witch's Road comes from his bedroom. The Wicked Witch, the different costumes, the different landscapes and stuff, they're all from Billy's imagination. They're in his head because he'd been seeing them all his life, putting them up on his walls, stuff like that. So we realize just how incredibly powerful Billy is. And the reason Billy is alive is because he willed himself into somebody else's body when somebody died. And he's also kept his brother's consciousness with him and has the ability to do that for Tommy as well. And we see him do that. We possibly see him do that, though we now know that Tommy is out there. But they also did other things that, in the comics, in the most recent Agatha Harkness Scarlet Witch series, Agatha Harkness is dead and is helping Wanda as a ghost. We got that now. Agatha now looks more, at the end of it, looks more like her comic book counterpart than she did in the series. So this ending really made, like I said, it made it a true sequel to WandaVision, but also set up so much stuff. We don't know what they're going to do with the Vision Quest series or whatever they end up calling it, but we know Paul Bettany is saying that next summer, he's going back to film as the Vision. Will that involve the kids? Seems like it should. Will Billy find Tommy? Will Agatha be around? So many questions. And at what point does Wanda come back? Because they go out of their way not to say she's dead. That's the one thing Marvel has done. We never see her body. Every time we get a confirmation that she might be dead, we don't really know for sure because it's not clear. It's not indisputable. So the odds are they're spending a lot of time making sure it's not 100% that they're going to bring her back. But how are they going to do it? What are they going to do? That's a good question. But Billy comes across as so powerful now that even death can't just take him. Because if he dies, he'll just pop into another body. She has to get him to willingly go, and he's not going to do that, at least not yet. So the fact that he shows up in pretty much his costume, we're heading towards the Young Avengers. I've been kind of holding off on that. I'm not a big fan of that idea because I still think there's lots of stories to tell with the adult Avengers and stuff like that. But this was pretty much, yeah, he's Wiccan now. They gave him his powers. They really did a good number with this series, and it just shows that Jack Schaefer is really good at writing these characters. And the talk is that she's going to come back and do a Wanda movie, and I think they should. I think that's what they should do, is they should do Vision Quest or whatever they're going to call it and lead that into a Wanda movie. Maybe they, they find Tommy or they find the Vision. They bring him back to being more like himself. Maybe Wiccan alters reality to make him look like the Vision that they, know. They find Tommy. That story happens. And then we go on to a Wanda movie, and they're looking for their mom or whatever. And it's kind of the Child's Crusade thing. They aren't going to be Young Avengers, though. By the time they get to the combined movie, it's going to be an alternate adult Avengers. Yeah, you're probably right about that. They're taking a long time. The latest word is that Marvel really wants to get done with the multiverse stuff. It's like, okay, we've had enough of this. Let's move on. So I was pretty amazed by the ending because, like I said, they could have stopped at the end of episode 8, maybe threw like 2 more minutes on to wrap up and been done. But episode 9 really gave us a lot more background into Agatha, a better understanding of her character. But they did it without making her a good person. They didn't redeem her. They just explained her, which I thought was fascinating. And I'm fascinated also with the fact that we never got Mephisto, which is fine. I didn't think we needed him. But if there was a couple points it felt like they could have shoved him in there, and I'm glad they didn't. Hey, Phil, how you doing? Diggs, what's up? If middle-aged folks can play high schoolers, they can still be the Young Avengers. True. But yeah, so that's those are my main thoughts on Agatha series. It's one of those that I think is going to need to sit with for a little while, because again, we got so much front loaded, and then we got almost like a normal quest series. It didn't start getting twisty, and then at the end, it's like we got that amazing episode 7. Where they put all the pieces together and all the little stray things. So you come out of episode 7 thinking, okay, we have the answers. We know what's going on. Now we just have to wrap it up and we'll have the final showdown or whatever. And by the time you get to the end of episode 8, you're kind of sitting there going, aren't we done? I feel like we're done. This was kind of where Marvel would end. And then episode 9 starts and you're like, okay, and by the time you get out of episode 9, you feel bad for Agatha for losing her son. You get a real different look at Billy, and it's just pretty awesome. I really think they did a good job. This is probably one of the best endings to a Marvel series in a while. They have this tendency to do Supper's Ready. And if you're not familiar with that, Supper's Ready, besides being an amazing Genesis song from back in the 70s, is a term that writers use where you rush the ending. All right, let's see. What am I going to do? Dinner's ready. Oh, shit. They're dead. My favorite example of that is Magnolia, that movie that had all the actors like Tom Cruise and William H. Macy and all these guys, and everybody was loving the movie. And it has the most Supper's Ready ending when there's suddenly a frog storm. That makes no sense at all in the story. But suddenly the frogs are falling from the sky and killing people. And it's the weirdest thing in a movie. That's what Marvel tends to do, is they rush to the endings. Even the best shows like WandaVision stuff, it feels like the endings are a little rushed. This one didn't. This one felt like they did a 9th episode to give us the room to really explore and explain. And it feels very satisfying. And I like that a lot. All right, let's just wrap this up here. Anybody else? I'll tell you, a few people popped in. Preston, good to see you. I'd rather have Nightmare over Mephisto. Okay, fair point. Nightmare is a great villain. They really do need to use him. At this point, I'd settle for Mephisto just walking by and someone just goes, hey. Mephisto's just a walk-on character. I love that. But we're going to get most likely we're going to get Mephisto in Ironheart, which is a weird place to get him. But that's what the rumor is. That's if it's still Sacha Baron Cohen. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks for tuning in. I have no idea what we're going to talk about next week, but we will. It won't be politics, hopefully. And I hope you guys all have a happy Halloween. Be safe out there. If you're taking your kids out trick-or-treating, keep an eye out for the cars, stuff like that. And we will see. Yes, that's because of the hood. That's why Mephisto's supposed to be in Ironheart as the hood. So have a great week, and I will see you next time. Remember, sign up for the mailing list, too, for Obsidian's Moon. See you guys.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.